So now what we're going to look at is how to add fractions. Now fractions are a really hard thing to add. So we're going to be using a manipulative. A manipulative is something you can hold and you can use to help you. So we'll look at that in a second, but first let's look at what we're doing. We've got adding proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed numbers. So a proper fraction is a fraction that's less than 1, and where the numerator, the number on the top, is lower or smaller than the one on the bottom. A half, 3/4 are examples. Improper fractions are fractions where they are bigger than 1, and the numerator is bigger than the denominator. We have some examples here. And a mixed number is a number where you have an integer and a fraction. So, we're going to come to these two words in a second, but here's the first one we're going to do, which is 3/4 add a quarter. And you can see here that the denominator is the same, quarter and quarter. So those numbers are what we call like fractions, because the bottom is the same. So 3/4 add 1/4. Let's have a look at how we could do that with our manipulative. So I need to start with one part, which as we said on our list, is 3/4. So I've got 1/4, I've got 2/4, and I've got 3/4. And I need to add it to a quarter. So my second part is a quarter. Now let's put them together to see what my whole is. So my whole is 1, 2, 3, 4 quarters. 4 quarters. Now there's another way of saying 4 quarters. Well, 4 quarters is the same as saying 1 whole. Let's check with our cards. Oh yes, exactly the same. So our answer here to 3/4 plus 1/4 is 4 quarters, which is also equal to 1. Okay. Now let's have a look at another one. On this one, we've got two mixed numbers. I've got 1 and 2/3 and 1 and 2/3. So let's have a look at that question. Let's make the numbers in our parts. So one part is 1 and 2/3. And then my other one is 1 and 2/3 also. So I've got 1 and I've got 2/3. So I've got two parts, and I need to put them together to make my whole. Put them together. Okay. So I can see straight away I've got 2 wholes, but here I can see I've got 4/3, which I can look at and I can see straight away is bigger than 1 whole. Well, if I put this 1 whole in here, that will cover 3 of them. I've got 1 left. So my answer is 1, 2, 3 wholes, and I've got 1/3. So my answer is 3 and 1/3. Okay. Let's have a look at another question now. My next question says 4 halves add 3 halves. 4 halves add 3 halves. And if we look at our list, they're both examples of improper fractions. So 4 halves add 3 halves. So I've got half cards. So I've got 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. Add 3 halves. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Now I've got 1 part is 4 halves, 2 parts is 3 halves. Let's put them together to make our whole. Well, I can see straight away then, if I just count them, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 halves. So I can write that in. But as we're doing this, I can see that that 7 halves is going to be more than 1, because I know straight away when my numerator is bigger. So let's have a look. Well, 2 halves make a whole. So that's 1 whole. That's another whole. Oh, that's another. So a way of saying that, I could also say is equal to 3 and 1/2. Now those examples I've just done are all examples of adding like fractions, because the denominator in all the fractions was the same. We can also add something called related fractions with these cards. Related fractions are when you can move very easily from the denominator to another with one step. So we've got 1/4 and 1/2, 1/3 and 2/6, 1/4 and 1/8. I'm going to show you a little bit more about what they are now so you understand. It can be hard to understand what related fractions are. So, let's have a look then at our first question. Our first question says 1/2 add 2/4. I'll move this out of the way. 1/2 add 2/4. So one part is a half, and another part is going to be 2/4. 1, 2. Now straight away I'm thinking, how am I adding these together? Well, let's go with it. Let's put them into our hole. Straight away I can see something there. You can see that they join together. And I can see that, oh, those 2/4 are the same as a half. So I can straight away say here, oh, 1/2 and 2/4 is 2 halves. Now someone that's been watching very carefully might also spot something else. The 2 halves then are also the same as 1 whole. So I could also say 1. What we've just done is added related fractions because it was very easy to add them together because halves and quarters are really easily related. Look at our next question. Now this one's adding related fractions that are in mixed numbers. So here I have 1/2 here, and I have 1 and 2/4. So I've got 1 and 2/4. So I've got 2 parts, and I'm going to put them together to make my whole. So up here, and up here. Well, let's put the holes together, like that. Now, I know I've got 2, and if I look again at this half and these quarters and move them together, I can spot a similar pattern to last time. I know that 2/4 is the same value, different appearance as 1/2. And so I can write, I've got 2 and 2 halves. But actually again, when we look at it carefully, we know that 2 halves is the same as 1 whole, so the answer is 3. One last question to look at, which is a bit trickier, but we're going to have a go at it. It says 7/3 add 4 halves. Now these two fractions aren't actually related fractions because they're not easy to put together. But we can have a go at this one and look if we can do something with the fraction cards to make it possible. So 7/3 to start with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Added to 4 halves. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, let's push these 2 parts then up into our hole. So there. Here. And then let's move up our halves. Well, straight away then, I'm going to just cover up my holes when I've got whole ones. Well, I can see that 3/3 there is equal to 1 whole, and 3/3 there is equal to 1 whole, and 2 halves there is, and 2 halves there. And so actually now if I look at it, straight away I can see the answer. 1, 2, 3, 4 holes, and 1/3. Okay, there we've learned to add proper fractions, improper fractions, and mixed numbers using manipulatives.